Hey, how's it going? Welcome to another episode of Lost Like Mike. I'm your host, Mike Gonzalez, and I'm recording this episode on Sunday, as I normally should do it. This is a part two, a second episode for this week. I say that because I was so late in recording last week's episode, it might as well have been two for this week, but as I said in the last episode, I really wanted to make sure that I kept on track and I knocked out an episode for last week. So yeah, I did get the haircut. I did do the things that I said I was going to do. My intention was actually, it was supposed to be much more close together. I was supposed to go get the haircut, come right back home, shower, and I say shower, just rinse off the short hairs, and then get right back into another episode. But life happens, right? So I got back home, and it was actually right before I left. My wife let me know that we were gonna be going to the park, feed ducks and do a bunch of different things. I tell you, I don't know if I just haven't been to a park. I don't know what it is, but I mean, I see people and I see people at a park, and I guess I get filled with so much disdain when I see just fresh floating pieces of trash. Like, drives me nuts, man. I don't know. I've always had the philosophy that I leave somewhere better than the way I got when I got there. But sometimes you could just tell, people finishing their bottles of water, leaving them on the table, the picnic tabletops, and getting up and just taking off. It's one of those things where it's like, where do they get these habits? You know what I mean? Where do they come off acting like that? I don't understand. But yeah, so we went to the park, hung out as a family. Haven't done that. As I mentioned on the last episode, it's the first weekend that I had with no shows and no work, no anything, in a long time. Because I went ahead and we did like a marathon, like we moved everything to the week. So since it was spring break, I played every day during the week. Starting from last Saturday, I just played Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, straight through. And so I had the weekend off. And I ration very little. I get very little time, with my family. So I was trying to, make up a little bit of that by going and doing some things they wanted to do. We were supposed to get storms and rain. We did get a bit of that, but that was why I figured I was just going to come right back, get my haircut, come back. But the weather was pretty great, so we wanted to take advantage of it. The next thing you know, we had blown through the entire Saturday just doing stuff and hanging out. So as well as all day today. So anyway, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for visiting. I was a little down in the last episode. We talked a little bit about the analytics and just knowing that not a lot of folks really listen all the way through. And I know the buck stops here. I know this is a selfish endeavor, but even that being said, I should take more time and care into it. I'm very sorting out why I'm self-destructive in that way and not doing the things that I know it would take to promote it, but and to polish it and to have fun with it. But I'm going to continue to just plow through it and really try to figure myself out. And I'm getting ready I'm going back to work tomorrow. I hired somebody, so that's always an exciting process. I've done interviews for years at previous jobs for, to hire people. And I enjoy asking people questions and then following up with there's always these standard questions that you have to ask everybody at these interviews, kind of like, what are your greatest strengths? What are your greatest weaknesses? That kind of cliche stuff that they ask at all of them. But it's always kind of cool to take somebody, what they're saying, and kind of dive into that rabbit hole, when they give you a little inkling of an insight to who they are. And then that's the part of interviewing that I used to enjoy. But I have a new hire starting tomorrow, so that's been on my mind over this weekend. I've been thinking a lot about training, and I'm going to have another applicant that I'm going to have to hire and train in the next few weeks. So at this new company, it's different, and there's a bit of a learning curve, and I'm seeing how they like to do things. So it's an interesting endeavor to it's my department now. So it's like I design the training, I design the expectations, and that's a weird responsibility. You sort of try to learn as much as you can about your position, about the company, about the required knowledge, and then I've kind of done a lot of training manuals and checklists and all this kind of stuff. So for me, it's going to be interesting to see this kind of play out and see how I did, to see how they do with the materials that I have designed and created for this. But it's cool to have a bit of ownership in the process. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'm just sharing. So a little bit about last week. Like I said, we did a bunch of shows. A lot of shows I always commute. For the majority of the shows are downtown, about 45 minutes away from where I live. I leave my town and I go to the main city, and I come back. And on night one, there was I was driving back to my town from the city, and they had construction traffic, and I swear, look, I don't know what goes on these construction sites. I'm not going to pretend to know the processes of building these highways or constructing these giant bridges that go over highways and whatnot. But I will tell you that for every time that I've driven by these construction slowdowns, which it turns a 45-minute drive into like an hour and a half, legitimately nobody's ever doing anything. I was on the first night I drove, and we're at a standstill, we're at a crawl, and all I keep thinking about is I just want to be home. I just want to, get as much rest as I can so I could go to work and go to the next show and just make it through the week. And but I'm driving by all these parked construction vehicles, and I see a few guys in hard hats just kind of standing around, sort of chitty chatting, And it's an incredible thing. You almost want to roll the window down and be like, "Yo, like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? Like, you're stopping everybody." And so, at least tell me, is somebody like pouring cement or I don't know, doing something? And like, am I just not seeing what's going on behind the curtains? What am I missing? Anyway, it was aggravating, and there's a couple of things that happen in these situations that I feel bad because it makes me feel like I've got all this hate in me or like anger, and I don't like that feeling. I hate it. But a few miles in advance of the construction, they start closing lanes of the highway, right? And there'll be a sign that'll say, "Hey, the left lane's closing. Merge right. Construction on left." That kind of stuff. And so you'll see on the right lane the traffic will be virtually crawling, and then on the left lane, zoom, 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 cars are trying to get to the front and butt their way in. You know what I mean? And okay, well, I'm pretty familiar with this area. So on the first night, there's this, I'm going straight, heading out of town, right? Heading out of the city. But I know the city well enough that when I see that the traffic is bumper to bumper and it's crawling, nobody's going anywhere. I know that I can just get off of this highway and I can cut on this one street. It's not going to get me there super fast, but I don't have to sit in traffic. It's like it runs parallel to the highway, and I could just bypass the traffic and then join up and be on my way, right? And that's what I did the first night. I noticed that nobody wanted to get off the highway and go in that direction. So I said, well, let's test it out. And I did, and there I went, right? So the next night, I said, well, I'm not even gonna go on that highway. I'm gonna go on a completely separate highway, and I'm gonna time how long it takes to get that way. So I switched to the other highway, and there was no traffic, but it was a longer drive, and it got me home. If the first drive would have taken an hour and a half, it probably got me an hour and 10, right? I wasn't super stoked, but whatever. And then on the third night, was the drag, because I don't know if I had finished later, what happened, but there was no traffic, right, at first. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to go on that highway then. And I was like, if I hit traffic, I'll know now. All I have to do is get off and go on that parallel street, right? So I'm no traffic, and I get to that parallel street, and I said, well, I guess it's not happening tonight. And it was like just past that street that I could exit on, it just all collapsed into one lane for construction. And I was furious, because then I really got to see how long and it was like an hour and a half. I mean, just bumper to bumper crawling, and I'm cursing under my breath while looking at these guys just standing outside trucks, just not doing anything. There's like this one commercial that says, it's like a truck commercial talking about, the hardworking this guys and construction guys and these different departments, and I'm obviously they work because there's highways and bridges, and these things happen, right? They're not magic. I'm just saying, you stop traffic from 6 o'clock in the evening to the, 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. I don't know how long they keep it shut, but it's an ongoing thing where I say to myself, well, they must be paid by, hourly rates and not by project and blah, blah, blah. It's silly, but I'm telling you, it sets the mood, man. When you're in these stupid situations of traffic and you're just hanging on, it makes everything else seem like agitation, multiplied. Ugh, it's ridiculous. You ever, like, I'll tell you, we were at the hardware store picking up mulch and like gardening stuff to to do a yard project. And we were in the parking lot, and my daughter's in this phase where she really loves rubber duckies, right? They have all these random ones like unicorn ducks and devil ducks and just assorted rubber duckies that are, about the size of your palm, and they're pretty small, but we were in the parking lot, and I see this Jeep, and all along the dashboard are these ducks. So I say, hey baby, look at all these rubber duckies on this. And my daughter gets all happy and makes, But then my wife says, yeah, people with ducks do that. They leave. No, people with Jeeps do that. No, not people with ducks. That's stupid. Yeah, people with ducks like to put them on the dashboards. No. She said, people with Jeeps will do that. They'll leave ducks on other people's Jeeps. And it's like a thing that's been going on forever. That, it's a tradition or something where, and look, I used to have a Jeep. Never heard of this. Never seen anybody put a duck on anything. Nobody ever left a duck on the hood of my Jeep. So I was a bit skeptical. But the point I'm bringing it up right now is that I have no reason to not believe her. Because I think, as a matter of fact, I saw another Jeep. Once you're made aware of it, all of a sudden you see it everywhere. So the reason I'm bringing it up currently is the idea of discovering things that are going on currently, have been going on forever, and being of a certain age and discovering them for the first time, right? The idea of these worlds going on around you, these things, and being completely oblivious. Because there's another cliche that says, when you're 20-something, you think you know it all. Seen it all, done it all, know it all. And I had my share of that, where I felt that there was nothing new under the sun. But I am fascinated by this idea of these things going on. And there's, as a matter of fact, there's like these TikToks currently, or these short videos that I've seen recently that that'll have the catchphrase, or it'll say, I was this many years old when I found out X, Y, or Z, right? Like, the last one I saw, somebody was sticking a toothpick in the butt of a lemon. They were sticking this toothpick into the one end of it, and then just squeezing the lemon from both sides and it squirts out all the juice. Right. I mean, it's kind of a lame example, to be honest with you, but an example nevertheless. This person had like an awestruck, like, what? You can do that? That's incredible kind of attitude in response to seeing that this was happening. But you see that a lot, where I've been seeing that a lot. And some of it is silly. Like they had one where, like it's been called a couple of things. There's this U-shaped crest station of the moon, where the moon goes through phases, full moon and quarter moon, whatever, like where you see a certain part of the moon, right? And there's this one, some call it the Cheshire Cat smile moon phase. I used to call it, when I was little, God's thumbnail. Somebody told me that, and I took it with me. But they show this short video, and then it was just like catching on. It was like viral. All these videos started popping up like, what is this new phase of the moon? Nobody can tell me that they've seen this before. This is like, it's always some apocalyptic sort of sign that nothing is what it used to be. But you go to the comment section, it's like, dumbass, like, we've all seen that. It's a thing. You just don't look up a lot, apparently, because that. Although I will tell you a story real quick I remember once I was driving with my brother Chuck, driving home, and he was really big into like UFO sightings, weird sightings, all this kind of stuff. And he got off on a lot of that kind of thing. But we're driving home, and if you could picture, like, the moon was like, it looked like it was cut in half, like, so if you cut a pie in half horizontally, right, and all you see is the upper curve of the moon, okay, and the bottom part is black, right, with the sky. So it looks like kind of like an all-white rainbow. How about that, right? But a small, like a, I know I'm like picking the hardest and worst way to describe this. But basically, if you just cut the moon in half in the middle, that's what we were watching. And that was cool enough. We were just like, what? That looks so wild. But then it was as if something covered a quarter of it. And it looked like it was just like one piece of pie left of the moon. And it was happening really slow. And it probably was like, I swear, it was probably like some type of eclipse or something, because a lunar eclipse. Because, and we're just so ignorant, we didn't know what we were looking at. Which I can kind of figure how like cave people were like, oh, that's so weird. Back, that was us. We were driving on the access road going to our house, and he pulls the car over, and we're both staring at this thing, and he's like, no way. And I was like, yeah, no way, dude, what are we looking at? That's cool. And it was slowly like cutting this into a quarter shape moon. And when it went to a quarter shape, he was like, no, man, that ain't right, man. That's crazy. And we like, I don't know, smoked cigarettes and talked about it all night. I'm sure we did, of the weird things. But, and things used to happen like that, where I remember we were driving downtown, and it was everybody in the band. I think I might have told the story on this podcast, but we had a band, my brother and I, and it's my cousin and my best mate from high school. We were all driving in the car, and And I thought I saw like a man flying. It sounds so stupid when I say it out loud. But he was all black and he was flying. It was kind of like, and we were super high, I'm sure. We were just really lit. Like there was nothing that we could say was reality. Like but like the only thing that ever was said was, "Did you see that? Yeah, that's crazy. We all saw that." But nobody said what we saw. So maybe one person might have seen a billboard that, and as far as I know, who knows? I don't know. But I saw a man flying next to the car, like off the highway, all in black. So, whatever that's worth. That's a bad segue. I said man flying, and I one time I was driving on the highway, and a man walked out in front of a car, purposely, and he stopped, and he got hit by the car that was ahead of me to the right. And I just remember seeing his shoe fly. The dude got hit, but I saw the shoe. And I was like, did I just see somebody commit suicide by car? I later found out I had heard that the man did not die from his injuries. But it was still traumatic to see somebody get hit by a car. And it's, should always tie your shoes, because that's, embarrassing to be like, you go one way and your kicks go the other way, or whatever. The Nike white, it was a white shoe. Well, I was walking to my show, I guess early on. I mentioned on the last show that it was upsetting to me, because I was overwhelmed, not only with the analytics and with everything going on, but the fact that I had like 5 shows to do, and I was trying to figure out when to find time to do the show and all this. And I'd be lying if I say it, the thought hadn't crossed my mind to just say screw it and just not bother doing an episode, or not bother sharing, that week or whatever. Thoughts like, well, who's going to care? Like the less than 10 people, or less than however many people are turning it on and turning it off, or listening to a little bit of it and whatever. It just negative thoughts, right? And I was walking to my show from the parking garage, and somebody had drawn with some kind of like marker, like it looked like white on this glass, and it just said "Stay Lost," and I thought that was so like interesting. Didn't say anything else, no picture, no graphic, no, just said "Stay Lost," and I thought, I'm gonna take that as a sign, like just inadvertent, just whatever, for whatever reason, I'm gonna put it in my head and I'll take it with me. It was something that just pushed me to say, well, you know what, I'm gonna keep plugging away at this and have fun. There was one person in the news where they're talking about the idea of these deep fake videos, and I was watching a show about it, that he had done so many audio things with his show that they were able to have all this archived. And it's funny, because I used to talk about that when I was one of those random ideas that you sort of put out there. I always thought that it'd be a cool idea to, like, Elvis had made like, I don't know, something like 30, 40 of these movies where he was hot. And so everybody was just all these Hawaiian movies, all these different things going on. And I thought, well, surely they could extrapolate all these from interviews and different things just take out all the audio and have enough audio to like voice an animated character, for example, which I thought would have been funny to have, like the first brand new movie that Elvis has been in, or the first movie made by somebody entirely made after they passed away, you know. Which we talked about a little bit on the last episode about ideas that you think are stupid or ridiculous, and then somebody else does it. It turned out that George Lucas went out and bought the likeness of certain dead celebrities, and the use of their like likeness and so on, so that he could do something similar. I'm not saying the same thing, but you know, and now with like AI and the ability to make, they could do it with anybody, you know. I think it would be kind of interesting to have a movie made with entirely all dead actors, I should say. But anyway, and I was laughing to myself because I've recorded over 80 episodes of, so there's like over 80 hours of me sitting here talking and saying all different sorts of silly things. And I don't think anybody would be so inclined, but I think it's funny to think about. I wanted, you know, the jury's out on AI and using AI. They have the technology now to, I could plug in a story like my children's book, and it would illustrate it and give me illustrations for the entire book. And although right now, anything you see and you're like, well, like they're talking about these deep fake videos and saying, well, you know, as good as they are, you could still tell. No matter what, dude. I remember when computer graphics, like video games, were like two white sticks going up and down, boom, 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 and just a ball bouncing back and forth. I remember thinking Super Mario Brothers looked like a cartoon to me. Like I was like, geez, that's just incredible. And now if you look at like, name your video game, it's seamless. The graphics are way better than the cartoons that you had when you were a kid. But you say even then, it's like there's an element of like realism that is lacking. Just know in your heart that that's done on purpose. Like, if it's not already there, it's gonna get there where you're not gonna be able to believe what you see, and the graphics are gonna be so like real that you're not gonna be able to be, you know, distinguish between was that a real authentic, you know. I don't know how they can regulate that, but that's the last you know, you're supposed to trust your own eyes. And even then I did this one thing, I talked about it on a way long time ago, maybe early episodes, where I participated in a training class where the point of the class was to illustrate to you that you shouldn't believe everything that you see. That we are all unreliable witnesses to an extent. And I did like 3 tests and failed partially on several. Like, first of all, I have bad vision. Not horrible vision, and not as bad as a lot of folks. Like, I can get by without wearing glasses. However, after a certain distance, things get blurry, right? So I already have a handicap, or where, you know, I always kind of, with a grain of salt, have to say, well, you know, I got to tell you, you know, that's pretty much what I saw, right? But even at that extent, you're saying, well, something's blurry, right? It was a man, I'm 90% sure, but I promise you he was wearing blue. Okay, and then these tests, it was like, wait a minute. I know I didn't see his features, like maybe he didn't have a beard or he had a beard. I couldn't tell because it was blurry, but I'll be damned if he wasn't wearing a blue shirt. And then they zoom in or like they do whatever the second part of the test, and it's like it was green or purple or like checkered or some other BS. And the one that kind of kills it is where you're in a group of people and everybody's writing down, right? The same scenario, we all saw the same thing. And then everybody shows their papers and you have the testimony of 10 people and not one matches. Or, this matches with that, but is that coincidence or, or are they seeing the same thing? It happens more often than not it happens so often with my wife and I that it's hard to trust. You're like, well, I don't know then. Maybe it was purple then. Forget it. But anyway, mark my words, that's no prophecy there. It's just recognizing the obvious, I guess. Eventually AI will, or like computer graphic, the technology will be there and the artistry where they can get those little mannerisms and those little nuances of human tics that can, be simulated and you won't be able to tell. It'll be that real. We'll have to somehow acknowledge, somehow you'll be able to see that, tell that it's fake. It's gonna be crazy. I don't know. Drives me nuts, man. The idea even. Whew. But I heard my wife close the door. There was some reason I wanted to have her on the show today. I forget what it was. I gave her a hard time about something. We were arguing or disagreeing. And I wanted to share that with y'all. But I can't remember now. And I feel like jerkish to just randomly point out things. But anyway, this weekend was cool. I played all day today. We played, my daughter and I were just playing just lots of games, and I'm thankful for that. It's people take for granted. You have the sacrifice of having to work all the time. Constantly being. I'm always running, and then I'll give myself a little opportunity to spend some time. You know what I mean, in the mornings or late at night. You can't be like, well, I'm going to make an excuse to not. As far as to say well, I really need my rest, so can we just pick it up tomorrow or whatever. I try not to do that. I try to, if I just wake up even if you're tired and, play, but it was nice to hang out and to not have anywhere to go, just to be able to do it and the weather really cooperated because it stormed. It's storming now. It stormed when we were hanging out. It was funny because I didn't sleep well last night, right? So one of the activities that we were going to do as a family was to watch this Trolls movie. They had already seen it, but they're always playing the soundtrack. They legitimately bought the soundtrack. All credit to Justin Timberlake for producing a soundtrack that just is very interesting and fun to listen to for my 9-year-old. But it's funny because we had, prior to the Trolls movie, prior to even being a possibility, of we used to play, I forget which some show she was watching, and it had like the idea of a boy band was on there. So we thought it'd be fun to show her different boy bands from the 90s, play different songs to see which ones that she liked and which ones she didn't, etc. Right? And she really got off to NSYNC. She would want to hear the songs on repeat, right? So then when and maybe subconsciously she related to the first Trolls movie and hearing that voice of Justin Timberlake. I don't know, can't say for sure. But I know that she liked it anyway, right? So anyway, that's not here nor there. But I swear I nodded off I don't remember 50% of that movie. I don't know, I must have been really tired, just beat up, because I would come out of it and something else would be happening. I'm like, stop falling asleep. And then I'd be gone again. To the point where I was like, dude, I said at the end of the movie, I said, I don't remember how half of that stuff happened. And they're like, well, because you were asleep for the whole movie. And I said, no way, dude, no way. But I did, I nodded off. I had a pretty big lunch, and maybe that was what it was. But for whatever reason, it's gone. Which is so, I can't be doing that. I don't like that idea. I mean, it's starting in April. I'm going to go back to playing shows on Mondays and Thursdays. It's going to make my time really rough during the week at work. So on Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm going to be just tired. I'm going to have to mainline coffee and be just jacked. Anyway, well, I wanted to touch base with everybody, see everybody this week, and see how you're doing. Share some things that are going on. I appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate you coming by. Please email me at lostlikemike@gmail.com. I do like it when we have conversations in that medium, on that platform. Please do. And thanks for listening. I'm going to try to get back on a good schedule. I'll be back on next Sunday. And we'll have more of a format. See if I can take some time to have our show ready for next week. All right. Y'all take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next week. All right, bye.